Introduce the cinematographer, Andres Karu. So yeah, this is super special where we just get to talk about the cinematography.
This is a rare treat.
So how does super noir film? Talk to us about noir feel. Sorry. Festivals.
I didn't prep for that word. Noir.
Noir. But I'm curious like how you and Laura collaborated on building the tension and that sense of fear that is really palpable. How did visually you all collaborate that and add to that? Cause
I remember early on, we wanted to make the dialogue not being, have a lot of space in it, not too much dialogue, and a lot of sections, and let scenes play out, not over shoot close-ups all the time. So I think that's part of it, letting shots play out, the tension, and obviously the score does a great job of that too. So.
Talk to us about how you all chose the locations, because the lake and the lake house, are so important in terms of the film, and interested what that process was like, just location scouting and deciding on what was going to be the world you were creating within this film.
Well, Laura lives in Portland, so it's kind of her backyard. Mm-hmm. And this was like 3 hours south of Portland, and I think they looked for like 6 months. They searched, way before I was even involved, and to find that perfect house, and we got lucky, definitely.
Were there any challenges or things that you were excited about shooting in the Pacific Northwest?
Well, being a New Yorker, I'm excited to not shoot in New York. And it's beautiful out there, yeah, so I was very lucky.
How was shooting on the lake?
Surprisingly warm, because Portland's supposed to be, rain, a lot more rain than we got. We had like rain one day out of the whole thing.
I heard there was a good story about one day of shooting on the lake. No? It's not an anecdote? Never fell in?
No.
The information I was given was not correct. I heard there was a...
prepped on one specific anecdote.
Maybe it's Laura's story. All right, just see it again.
It was cold. The water was cold.
The water was cold.
I went in too, but I had a wetsuit. So.
Okay. I wanted to talk also about, the film does not feel like the classic male gaze, even though there was a man behind the lens, in terms of how just sexuality and women's bodies and intimacy was shot. So talk to us a little bit about that collaboration, because I myself find it's very rare to see something that is truly from what a female point of view would be. So I'm just interested in what your working relationship was like with Laura, and how it seems to really be different in terms of that gaze and that view of intimacy and sexuality.
Yeah, that's a tough one, but I have worked with a lot of female filmmakers, so it didn't feel like anything that strange to me, and female stories I've worked on before. But, and ultimately what's important is that when you interview like a DP, that regardless of male or female, there's that connection and a vibe, and we had that connection pretty quick, so it wasn't really something we had to, didn't feel like a challenge.
Well, was it your first time working together?
Yes, it was.
And this was Laura's first feature, so talk about that experience, like, what that working relationship is like between the director and the cinematographer.
Well, she likes to do a lot of prep, but we only had like 2 weeks of prep, so it was tough. So we still did it even shot list before we already started shooting, so tough, because, budget and all that, but a lot of long days.
I have one more question before I throw to the audience. There's a lot of reflections or shots of mirrors in the film, which makes me think about self-reflection, and I don't know how much that was some of the process or intention in sort of using that motif visually.
I think mostly happy accidents, because some of the furniture was just there in the house, and some was brought in by our production designer, but I think it's often just once you are in the location and have everything set up, then just kind of being open to, like, oh, that would look great if we did that. So I don't think it was too much, planning for reflections.
Or overthought.
No.
Questions from the audience? I see, sorry, the light is hard. I think I see someone here, yeah.
Great film. The house is such a character in the film, Andres. How did you shoot the house? And lighting. What kind of lighting? It seemed like a lot of natural lighting.
Yes, a lot, but at the same time, the tree cover was kind of
kind of cocoon the house in, so we still had to bring in like, you know, artificial lighting, but I definitely, you know, try to make it look as natural as possible. That's the goal for me.
Did you plan to shoot the house that much?
Yeah. I mean, it was, yeah, so many scenes took place in the house, so I hope we, you know, didn't repeat ourselves too much.
It's a cool house.
Other questions for Andres? None? Oh, thank you.
The score, what comes first? I mean, do you do all your filming and then the score gets adapted to the?
Yeah, the score came in pretty late, and it was a composer that just basically wrote an email to Laura. I forget how she heard about Laura, and Laura said it was just like very inspiring, and then they connected, but it wasn't until a rough cut that she even started working on it. So, and then there was, Laura talked a lot about also wanting to kind of blend sound design and score, which is interesting to me. So it kind of started out very experimental, I think the first pass, and then it got a little more musical, but the finished product. But
So, I mean, I'm a little ignorant. When the cinematographer films, are you also capturing the nature sounds? Or is that a separate?
it's more like the sound guy is more focused on that, but he does try to, like, yeah, wherever we are, try to get some nature sounds, but often you can't. And yeah, I don't know if how much of that they did in post as far as adding that stuff. I don't know.
The sound throughout, not even just the music?
Yeah, I know Laura worked a long time on the sound designer, you know, getting all that right. She was very important to her.
And I can say that is where TFI came in. We saw a rough cut, and Laura it was for finishing funds, and she had a very specific vision of how a better sound design and a composition was really going to add to the film. So that's where we could see that like the film would really elevate it to have this other component to add to the strong visuals and the really strong storytelling.
It was a very important ingredient.
Any other questions?
Hi, Andres. So when you first saw the movie after it was all put together, was there a favorite part that you had shot that when you saw it from like the other side, kind of, were you like, wow, I'm pretty proud of that moment?
Well, it's funny because I've seen it a few times for technical reasons, and it's not the same. I felt like it wasn't a movie until the other night it premiered with an audience. It was like a whole different experience. It was amazing. I mean, I really love the record player scene when they first, and then the music swells just at the right moment. I love that.
Good scene.
Any last question? Oh, yes.
That closing scene with the shot up front where Laura's on the porch and it's sort of like almost like a bird's eye view looking down. How did you shoot that? Where were you?
You know, again, luck, total luck, because the way the landscape of that house, the driveway was above most of the house. So that, like, the deck was on like this, the kind of the basement level of the house, and then the whole driveway, there was this curved around, and you put a camera up there, and that was the view. It was amazing. Luck.
Well planned luck, though. Any last questions for Andres? Well, thank you so much. Remember, this film is a narrative competition. For more information, you have an hour to vote on the app for the Audience Award. So please do vote if you love the film. Now, claps for Andres.